All right, Shalom, Shalom. Brakatiyah, Bashim Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. All right, double honors to the apostles and elder bishops here at Great Millstone. Shalom to you, Akim, who are pushing the work in truth and in sincerity. All right, coming back at you with another lesson. Lowliness is edifying through spirit and power, Yah Bashim Yahushai. All right, and I wanted to call it, they should be crying or begging for us to rule, all right, in this earth. Okay? These people are supposed to be crying and begging for us to rule in this earth. Because the scriptures say the earnest expectation of the creature, all right, is the manifestation of the sons of God. All right, the world is in peril, and the people who are running the world is running it to the ground and bringing it towards the brink of destruction. Okay, and this world needs new rulership, and we all know that. Okay, it's like these people love to have, the majority of these people love to have this place sold. They love to, essentially trust in oppression. We know for the most part our people do. All right, they trust in oppression. The Israelites, speaking upon the Israelites. All right, and nobody is, speaking about, the coming rulership of the Lord, him establishing a kingdom on earth, because the scriptures go into that. His whole purpose is to take out the devil, to take out sin, to take out death itself, all right, and bring healing, all right. But the world is stuck on this primitive way of life, and how it's structured, okay, and they want this shit to go on for forever, man. But the point of this lesson, man, is they should be crying for us to be in rulership, and I know probably it's a lot of people, all right, in the world who want to see change, okay, right? That's why there's uproars of the people in the world. Why do you think that is? Okay, because they ultimately, people want a fair, fair rulers, rulers who rule in judgment and equity and ultimately righteousness. Okay, and that's what you're gonna get when we come into power. All right, when we come into power, that's what you're gonna get. And of course, the nations eventually they'll get rest, but because they're so, what's the word, reluctant for actual change, right? We're gonna bring it by force. Okay, we're gonna bring it by force, and the scriptures say that. All right, because they're not looking for us to rule. All right, they know just deep down that they're tired of the madness, they're tired of the evil that's going on. But they'll continue to always choose the lesser evil. So guess what? We can't keep it, and we won't. The Lord Most High Yahweh Shemel Shai, all right, in particular, He won't allow these people to continue on as they have, because they'll never choose. They'll just continue to choose the lesser evil. All right, and that's why the Most High Yahweh Shemel Shai is going to come in and sweep. He's going to clean this place. All right, He's going to clean it up, and He's going to throw out these the world governments, as the scriptures say. He's going to take their crowns away, all right, and He's going to take authority away from those that don't need authority, in which all the heathen nations were created to serve, right? They were created to serve, all right. That's Deuteronomy 32 and 7 and 8. They were created to serve. But now, of course, because the Israelites, we pretty much, broken the covenant, because it was put in our possession to rule the earth and rule according to the laws of the Most High, but we failed. All right, and therefore you got the crazies have taken over, the the crazy people have taken over the crazy house. All right, and they're making it worse and worse. All right. But here, this is Daniel 7:18. It says, "But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess it, or select it, and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever." Right? So the Lord, all right, starting with the Lord, He's going to take the kingdom, all right, and then with His holy angels, and then those that are caught up in the air with Him, the elect, the chosen 144,000, all right, the 1/3 elect of the nation of Israel. Okay, all right. And upon His coming, He's coming for war, as the scriptures say. And boy, is He desperate. And He can't wait. Because He says, "What will I if it already be kindled?" He said, "I come to bring fire," as the scriptures say. All right. And what will I? I'll just use this one. If it already be kindled. All right. So the Lord He's desperate. All right. In a good way. Okay. In a very righteous way. So Luke 12:49, "I am come to send fire on earth. And what will I if it already be kindled?" Okay. In other words, He's saying, let's see what NLT. But in other words, He's saying that He already wished this place was burning. Okay. Look, there you go. This is Luke 12:49. "I have come to set the world on fire." All right. Fire. All right. It says, "And I wish it were already burning." So what does that show you? It shows you that the Lord is not only desperate, but He's anxious. Okay. All right. He's very anxious. Okay. And that's what He's waiting. He's waiting on to get the green light. All right. He's ready to get the green light. This is 1 John 3:8. It says, "He that committed sin is of the devil." All right. And Esau, Edom, is the devil. He's the wicked seed. All right. That is grown in the earth. And essentially he's corrupted all the nations in the earth through what? Through his standard of living, his way. All right. Okay. And that has only corrupted the minds of people and continue to corrupt the minds of people because he's taking people further away from the Most High Yahweh. He's taking people further away from the concept of truth and wisdom, all right, and light and righteousness, all right. And righteousness, the law was made to preserve the world that we live in. It was made to preserve life itself, okay. It was made to make all things work, all right. And the scriptures tell you that, it goes into that, how righteousness, all right, is eternal, okay. And God's righteousness is eternal as long as, if you keep that law, the perfect, but of course we couldn't keep the law perfect because we didn't have a perfect heart. We had a stony heart, as the scriptures go into, and that's why we have to be changed in order for the rest of the world to enjoy the earth in which we live. If the Israelites if we don't receive salvation, right? Because that was a question that was posed this weekend, right, on the eldest page, and somebody asked a few, somebody posted on our channel as well. I don't know how many channels he did, but he posted on our channel, saying that basically just because, because everybody is under the curse of Adam, shouldn't everybody have salvation? Well, no. All right. Okay. The only ones that truly have salvation is Israel. But through Israel, the nation and the world is going to be restored and blessed. Okay. After we kick y'all ass. All right. After we get get our redemption. All right. Okay. After the Lord punishes you nations, and now that you have to learn what it feels like to be, at the bottom. Okay, just like we had to learn. But we're the rightful rulers of this planet in the first place. Okay, but we had to take a large detour. But Salaki, I digress. Right, so it's 1 John 3 and 8. It says, "He that had committed sin is of the devil." Right, for the devil sinneth from the beginning. All right, and who sinned from the beginning? You got what? You had the serpent, right? You had Cain, okay, and those spirits, all right. All it did was, uh, uh, all it was that it became essentially transitory. All right, you had Cain's descendants, all right, and his descendants were the seed of the wicked. Okay, those spirits came back, and the scriptures kind of it goes into that. The grain of evil seed was planted in Adam. All right, from the beginning. All right, let's see if we can get that really quick, and then we can get back on topic. I'm gonna try not to jump tonight. All right, so the second Ezra, chapter 4, verses 26. Uriel answered. This is the GNT, by the way. If you live long enough, you will be surprised at what you will see, because this age is rapidly passing away. This age is so full of misery and imperfection that it cannot hold all the blessings that God has promised the righteous in time to come. Okay? The evil about which you have asked me has already been planted, but the time for its harvesting, all right, to harvest something is to pretty much to take it up, all right, to reap it, all right, has not yet arrived. All right, this evil must be harvested. Right. And now we see the evil, we see the wickedness. All right. You shall know them by their fruits. All right. This evil must be harvested, and this world where it was planted must be removed before the new age where the good is to be planted can appear. Right. So the evil has to be taken up before the good can come. That's why that's why he says what he says in Luke. We read it in NLT, Luke 12:49. I have come to set the world on fire, and I wish it were already burning. All right. So that's the Lord's thoughts on this world. Okay. So back in 2 Ezra 4, and let's see here. 30, we'll start at 30. It says, "At the beginning of time, one grain of evil seed was sown in the heart of Adam." And who was that? His son Cain, because he was the murderer. He committed the highest treason. He committed the highest sin. Right? See how much wickedness it has already produced. Think of how much more it will produce before it is cut down and threshed out at Judgment Day. Okay? So it's produced and being produced by a faction of people, the Edomites. All right, and it's constantly perpetrated, because even when you look at Esau, you gotta, you have to. When you look at Esau, you have to look at his blessing and what his purpose here on earth is. All right, and his blessing was to rule with the sword. When you go into the word sword in Genesis 27:40, all right, that the word there is, I believe, charab, if I'm not mistaken. All right, it means to slay, or what? No, it means a wasting. Let's go into it. Genesis 7:27-40. It says, "And by thy sword shalt thou live." Okay, this is the blessing. I always got to bring this one out. This is the blessing that Isaac gave to his son Esau. All right, and this is Hebrews 11:20, and it says here, "By faith Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come." Right, so he blessed them according to what was to come. All right, which in other words is prophecy. He prophesied of what was to come concerning his sons. And by thy sword shalt thou live. And this is dealing with who? This was dealing with Esau, right? To go up a few verses, what? Verse 38, and Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing from a blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. So a lot of you don't understand these scriptures, man. All right. A lot of you don't understand these scriptures. Okay. All right. It says, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. Meaning he was going to have all the riches in the earth. And who has all the riches now? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. All right. And of the dew of heaven from above. All right. And by thy sword shalt thou live. And here's the point here. I'm just going to go into this word sword. And shalt serve thy brother. So the word here for sword, oops, okay, it is charab. And here it says what? Sword, knife, tools for cutting. Let's go into the root word. Same pronunciation, charab. It says, by analogy, to destroy or to desolate, destroy, kill, decay, be desolate, destroy. Destroyer, be dried up. All right. Slay, surely, lay, lie, make waste. All right. And this is what the so-called white man has been doing for the last few hundred years. He's been the proprietor of destroying. All right. He's the one that brought. He is he's death incarnate. He gets to pick and choose who dies. All right. Of course, we know death ultimately it comes from the Lord. But the Lord is, this is his blessing. This is what his purpose here on earth, right? To lay waste, okay? Make desolate, right? And the so-called white man has been doing it. Ain't nobody else been doing that. Not on the level as the so-called white man. So let's go back, because this, this is the grain of evil seed. This is what they've been doing in the earth, okay? So 2nd Ezra 4 and 29, it says, this evil must be harvested, and this world where it was planted must be removed, okay, before the new age where the good is to be planted can appear, right? Because everything about this age and this world that we live in currently is all about evil. It's all about wickedness. It's all about the predator and the wicked elite, uh, wrecking havoc in the world, all right, and doing what they want to, and that's what it's been about, all right, and it's only getting worse from what we see now. It's only getting worse, all right. He's about to pull the most diabolical move ever being pulled in the history of mankind, because he has such an overreaching, his power is very overreaching, so he has power over the whole world, and he's about to bring the world into utter chaos. All right. We use the term, uh, he's industrialized the apocalypse. Okay. Just at the beginning of time, one grain of evil seed was sown in the heart of Adam. See how much wickedness it has already produced. Think of how much more it will produce before it is cut down and threshed out at judgment day. Yeah, because what we see, the evil that we see, is going to be put out. All right. Regardless of how powerful they think they are. Okay. And you really should be begging us. You really should be crying for us to be put. And you will. You're gonna be crying for the righteous to be raised up, because of how much evil this devil is about to put on you. Because he's the proprietor of sin at this point. Because that's all he's produced in this society is sin. Okay, and we're gonna go back to that 1 John, right? It says, you can see for yourself what a big crop this one evil seed has produced. That evil seed is Esau, Edom. How terrible will be the harvest on Judgment Day, and that harvest is going to be that thermonuclear strike. All right, okay, which he's going to be taken out by his own weapons. All right, it says when these countless heads of grain are threshed out. Okay, all right, and who's going to thresh them out? Yahweh Shemiel Shai. All right, so 1 John 3:8, he that committeth sin is of the devil. Right, for the devil sinneth from the beginning. All right, we kind of touched on that. All right, okay, because Esau was always wicked. And the scriptures talk about him being estranged from the womb. Okay, Esau was estranged from the womb. He hated his brother, and it was a perpetual hatred. And Ezekiel 35:5 goes into that. Okay, so he created the ultimate sin, which was what? Murder. He wanted to murder his brother, and he promised to do so. So that was the sin. Okay, amongst other things he's done in his youth. All right, as a nation of people towards his own brother nation, which is Israel. And he continues to do that evil towards us to this day. It says, and he's committing the ultimate sin because, he's parading himself around as he's a Christian, but the scriptures talk about how can one say they love God and hate his brother, right? And they accuse us to the Father. They have laid snares, and destroyed our communities covertly, all right? And they openly hate us, okay? And they've been hiding. And what we're about to witness now with all the rhetoric now is what? Right? White rage, so-called white rage, all right, towards you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because they want to blame you. And if you think they're not having a field day with ICE and the detaining of immigrants who are mainly the Latin tribes, right? If you think they're not licking their chops, they're having fun with this whole thing. Okay. So moving on, it says, for this purpose, the Son of God was manifested that he might destroy the works of the devil. All right. So Yahweh Shai was what? He was manifested to destroy the works of the devil, which the devil is Esau, Edom. Okay. All right. He was always that wicked one. And the scriptures go into three classifications of men: the sons of God, the sons of men, which are just the regular heathen nations who's supposed to be subservient to us, but they're ruling over us because we transgress the laws of the Heavenly Father. And, they have control, all right, for the time being, all right. And the scriptures talk about the Gentiles, ruling, okay. But the main classification of men, right, is the sons, or I should say the other classification of men, the third and final, right, is the sons of the wicked. All right. So the Lord was manifested that what? He's going to take, the wicked out. Okay. Because this is ultimately what's coming. Okay. But you got these people who leaning on the side of this devil, but they have no idea that he's going to bring the pain even to those who trust in his oppression. All right. And you're going to wish the righteous was ruling then. And people are in uproars right now as we speak. So Hebrews 2:14, for as much then as the children are partakers of the flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, dealing with Yahushua, that through death he might destroy him that had power of death. Right? So Yahushua, when he died, all right, and he died on the cross, right? He was risen to receive a glory, and that glory was all power and authority. That he would take out who? Or destroy, that he might that through death he might destroy him that had power of death. And who has power of death? All right, that is the devil. Okay, because what their blessing, which is in live in effect right now. All right. It was the sword to waste, to destroy, to make desolate. Okay. And essentially, when you look at Esau, what they are the proprietors of death. They produced a death culture. Okay. And delivered them who, through fear of death, were all their lifetime subject to bondage. Okay. Which are the Israelites. Okay. All right. So Yahushua had to die so that what? He can defeat death itself and defeat the proprietors of death, the ones that push death. All right. And Esau pushed death, right? And you would think they'd be crying, for change. All right, but they're not. So let's get into these precepts because I only got a few. Oh boy, here we go. All right, well, you know what? I ain't gonna waste my time. I think. Oh, okay, because I thought it didn't want to close out, but apparently it did. All right, I just want to get rid of these tabs. All right, so let's start here. Second Esdras. Which one was this? 9. All right. Yeah, we can pick up from here. All right. And let's start at 18. This is the GNT. I like using this a lot too because the way it words. There's certain scriptures in the word, the Bible, it makes it more simpler. So it says, before I created this world or the people who lived in it, Second Esdras 9 and 18. All right, no one opposed me, right? Because no one existed. All right. And the only one that existed was what? Yahushua and the angels. All right. Okay. The elect. All right. It says, when I had created the world, I supplied it with an abundance of food and a law of profound wisdom. But the people I created live corrupt lives. All right. Okay. Well, you know what? This one don't give it justice like the KJV. All right. Well, verse 20 does. All right. So 20 being the point, it says, I looked at my world and saw that it was ruined. All right. So the world is ruined. Okay. And the world, for the most part, that's what you see, a ruined world. When you look at Esau and Esau's, what he's really produced, all right, through his blessing was colonialism. Colonialism goes back to his blessing. All right. His colonialism, if I'm saying it right, all right, goes hand in hand with the blessing that Esau received from his father Isaac. Okay. So it says, I saw that my earth was in danger. Right. This man is made a wreck of everything. Even when you look at the economies, the economies are waning because of debt. All right, this huge bubble of debt that Esau has created. People are suffering, and there's a looming collapse that's going to turn the world upside down on its head, right? And then he's going to bring in this global reset, right, and control every aspect of life. All right. So it says, I saw that my earth was in danger of being destroyed by the wicked plans of the people who had come into it. All right. And that's Esau. Is being destroyed by what? By his way of life, his policies, his laws. Okay. All right. And they always talk about spreading democracy. Now they're talking about they're Christians. And well, Christendom has always been surrounded in white supremacy. All right. The West's Christianity is white Edomite supremacy, right? Elders, plenty of elders going into that, all right. And for the most part, even Esau is exposing it, their own, all right. So it says, when I saw this, I found it very difficult to spare them, but I saved a few for myself, one grape out of a bunch, and one tree out of a great forest, and that's the elect. Okay, that's the elect. Okay, so let them perish, all those people who were born only to be lost. Right, but let my chosen people be kept safe, those for whom I worked so hard to bring to perfection. All right, and these are the elect. These are the ones that's gonna essentially make it through this age. All right, even the ones that die are gonna be resurrected. All right, for the new age, the eternal age of the kingdom of the Most High, Yahweh Shai. All right. So Job 9:24, it says, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, he covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? All right. So the wicked control the world, right? And they cover the face of the judges thereof. Let's go into this word covered. All right. Covered. And the Hebrew word is kasa. Kasa. All right. Or kasa. Well, yeah, kasa. Right. It says cover, hide, conceal, covering, overwhelmed, clad, clothed. All right. And that's what they've done. They concealed the judges of this earth, right? Which are the Israelites. Okay. From the great the patriarchs and all their descendants. Okay. Even Abraham. All right. They covered the truth, to cover, conceal, hide, right? To cover, clothe. What is it over here? It says to cover oneself, to put on anything. Hmm. To cover, to conceal. Well, yeah, you get the gist. All right. And that's what Esau has done. He's covered the faces of the judges. All right. And he put himself as the judge, as if he was this righteous, you know, praiseworthy people. And they're not. It's complete deception. Right. It says, if not, where and who is he? So who's the ones that have done the lying, the deceit, the covering of the judges? You got a whole era of what they call iconoclasm, no, Renaissance, the Renaissance period, okay, which consisted of what? These Edomites bringing in what? Greek and Roman what not just literature but religion, all right, false gods, false deities, and reshaping and refashioning the world and through their eyes. Okay. And what came along with that was iconoclasm, the actual changing. All right. Let's see what Chat Jupiter got to say. What is icon? Is it clasm? Oops. I think I did spell it wrong, but they'll know. It'll know. Iconoclasm means the rejection, destruction, or opposition to religion or religious images, icons, or symbols, especially when those images are seen as false, idolatrous, or politically dangerous. Yeah, and it was politically dangerous for the fact that what? Esau was coming into power and he had to erase any remnant of of history concerning us, right? From Greek icon image likeness plasma to break, so they broke the images, right? Let's see here. Protestant Reformation. Reformers like Calvin, John Calvin, I believe, right? He started Calvinism. All right. It says Zwingli and Zwingli rejected Catholic statues, stained glass, and paintings as idols, right? Which they weren't worshiping them as idols. You don't have to worship them as idols. All right. But you did have that. You did have that. All right. Okay. But what happened was they rejected the truth concerning or the dark art, as they would put it. All right. It says many Protestant movements engaged in iconoclasm, stripping churches bare. Colonial Christianity in the Americas and Africa. When Europeans came, they practiced iconoclasm against indigenous and African spiritual symbols. It destroyed totem poles, ancestral masks, uh, codices, in temples, labeling them pagan idols. Right, but you reintroduce more paganism with Greek and Roman art. Hey, get the hell out of here, man. All right. This was both religious and political. It says breaking the spirit of conquered peoples. Right. All right. And then what they did was what? To the victor goes the spoil. So they rewrite history as well. Right. It says deeper layer, biblical prophecy and identity. It says some also use iconoclasm to describe how images of Christ, the apostles, and biblical figures were changed. Original depictions of Israelites as dark skinned were destroyed, whitewashed, and replaced during the Renaissance period, 15th and 16th centuries. This is when Esau kind of he has a foothold in the world, right? And this is post Cristobal Colon. This is post the Roman Catholic Church. Hold on, I want to be sure. Dum diversas. Oops. Dum D right. Was it 1452? Because that would make all the sense in the world. Dum diversas is a papal bull excuse me, on 18th June 1452 by Pope Nicholas V. It authorized King Alfonso V of Portugal to fight, subjugate, and conquer those rising against the Catholic faith and struggling to extinguish Christian religion, namely the Saracens and pagans, in a militarily disputed African territory. The document co-signed warring enemies that lost to perpetual servitude. Yeah, they gave them the authority to put Jake in chains. This and the subsequent bull issued by Nicholas in 1455 gave the Portuguese what they saw as moral justification to freely acquire slaves along the African coast by force or trade. The edicts are thus seen as having facilitated the Portuguese slave trade from West Africa and as having legitimized the European colonization of the African continent. All right, and that was passed by a Pope. All right, so let's move on. Okay, it says the cultural iconoclasm wasn't just breaking images; it was replacing them with false ones to support European supremacy. So they didn't just they didn't just conquer you; they conquered your history and rewrote it. All right, so. Yeah, so we finished with that Job 9:24, right? So Let's move on. Proverbs 29:2. When the godly are in authority, NLT, the people rejoice, but when the wicked are in power, they groan. And that's what's happening. That's the result of what, you know, uh, Edomite colonialism, all right? And this is the end result. You know, you got that dude, Matt Walsh, you know, championing and basking in this pseudo heroism of, you know, the West and Europeans taking over, you know, the North, Central and South Americas, all right, and all over the world uh, for the most part, all right. They're championing themselves as if they've done something great. When the result of that was, when you look at the world right now, okay, and how much it declined. All right, you got world government superpowers who are completely corrupt. All right, and people are suffering. Right, that's not just hypothetical. That's not just a guess or or an opinion. That's reality. All because of Edomite superiority. No one can live equally to this man, and he don't want nobody to live equally to them. They just want to pummel and destroy and destroy and destroy. Well, the Lord is going to destroy you. That the scriptures talk about what? Oh man, gotta get this one. All right, Revelations. All right, 11 and 18. It says, the nations were filled with wrath, but now the time of your wrath is come. This is the NLT. It is time to judge the dead, which are the heathen nations. All right, the heathen nations. Okay, because they're going to be brought into judgment, and the Lord is going to make good on the promises that he made as far as the judgments that he was going to bring forth towards the heathen for the evil that they've done. All right, throughout history, we're the only ones that have been judged by the Heavenly Father, and we've drank the cup of the Lord's indignation. We're the only nation in the world. You read Daniel, the 9th chapter, the 12th verse, where you can start up a few verses before that, but it explains that no one has gone through what Israel has gone through. Okay, because we were in captivity under every nation, practically every nation in the world, every nation that was a superpower. They had their filthy hands on us. And we're talking about the Lord's chosen here, right? They had their filthy hands upon the apple of the Lord's eye and had their way with us. And who've had their way with us more than Esau, Edom, the so-called white man? All right? It is time to judge the dead, okay? And reward your servants, the prophets. So there's a condemnation, right? And there's a salvation, okay? It says, as well as your holy people and all who fear your name. All right? So the prophets, which are what? Essentially the 144,000. And then your holy people is the 1/3. All right? The great multitude of Israelites. Okay? And all who fear your name, from the least to the greatest. It is time to destroy all who have caused destruction on the earth. Right? So that's what's about to happen. The Lord's about to destroy those who have destroyed the earth. That's what the KJV says. 11 to 18. Revelation 11 to 18. The nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead. Let's look at this word angry, right? I wonder why they're angry. Orgidzo.
Strong's G 3710. Orgidzo. Orgidzo.
All right. It says to provoke or enrage, i.e., passively, become exasperated, be angry, wroth, right? Slack it. To provoke, to arouse to anger, to be provoked to anger, be angry, be wroth. Okay? So they're being provoked to anger. Okay? It says, in the time of the dead, they should be judged. Right. You got to be judged because y'all never was judged. So how salvation going to come to, you know, essentially every other nation outside of Israel who ain't been judged throughout the course of mankind's history. All right. You didn't have to swallow that cup of the Lord's indignation. We have throughout the millennia. We have. All right. And we was without God in the world. All right. So the times that we did rule at certain points, whether it be the Byzantine Empire, whether it be the Moors, all right, and we're just talking about within this last millennia, all right, the last 1,000 years, okay, all right, we were ruling without the Most High in the world, okay, and then when you look at the captivities and the occupations of the nations, the Romans, the Greeks, the Medo-Persians, all right, Babylonians, the Assyrians, the list goes on. We didn't have any type of rule, right? That was significant. Okay, so I digress. Let's keep going. I'm gonna have to finish this out. All right. All right. So the people are groaning in the world. All right. Why? Because of the wicked. And you should have been blessing us. You're right. You got this faction of Christians. Christian Zionists is what some would call them. We just call them Edomites. You know, who live in a Christian belt, and they're supposed to be, you know, super Christian now, right? Right now they're supporting the state of Israel. They're not supporting the actual Israelites, right? And for the most part, they got their foot on our necks, and they're looking to destroy us. Okay, all right. Here, let me see. Right. So Romans 8:19. For the earnest expectation of the creature waited for the manifestation of the sons of God. All right. Because ultimately, nobody want to stay in wickedness forever, or have to serve wicked leaders forever. For the earnest expectation of the creature waited for the manifestation of the sons of God. So these creatures, these men, they're waiting for the rightful heirs to rule this earth. Why? Because we're going to rule it with equity. All right, we're going to rule it with a rod of iron, but we're going to rule it with the majesty of or the law of the Heavenly Father. Right, which that law is eternal. And if you run the earth by that law, well, guess what? The earth is going to benefit. And the earth is not benefiting from what the rulers that's ruling this place, man. All right. It's most certainly not. So it says, for the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who hath subjected the same in hope. All right, because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious, and that creature is the Israelites. All right. Okay. Liberty of the children of God. Okay. And the nations are going to serve. So the world actually needs us. All right. The world needs us to be saved. And they just don't know it. The world needs us to be saved, and you just don't know. All right. Maybe I'll name it that. So like it. All right. So in closing, all right, read a few more and then we're going to close. All right. So this is Isaiah 24. Let's read in the KJV. And 4, we get straight to the point. It said, the earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people meaning the arrogant, lofty people of the earth do languish, which is rightfully so. Okay? All right? Because the Lord is not mocked. That which a man soweth, that shall he reap. You do wickedness in the earth, you blaspheme the Lord, but guess what? It's going to come. Punishments are going to come to reward your behavior. This is the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. Oh, that's why I had an NLT. I wanted to read verse 5. All right, meaning those that inhabit this world are defiling it because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Let's read this in the NLT. Isaiah 24:5. The earth suffers for the sins of its people, for they have twisted God's instructions. Who has twisted the Lord's instructions? You people that are calling yourself Christians, right? Followers of Christ, right? You're twisting, all right, the Lord's instructions. And a lot of you know that this place is getting its ass kicked because y'all not following God. You ask a lot of people that, and they'll say that. Why is the world the way it is? Why is America the way it is? Because we're not following God. Because there's gays and up to them. They, you'd be surprised how many response you get. Some people know. Some people, don't care. But it says violated his laws. It says twisted God's instructions, violated his laws. All right, and that's what Christendom has done for the last few hundred years. Right? Violated the laws of the Most High. If you had slaves, you didn't treat them according to what the Bible says you're supposed to treat your slave. Neither did you do humanity. And not only the slaves, but you got the natives, which are the Northern Kingdom. All right, the native tribes. All right, which consists of the North American Indians, so-called. All right, so-called Mexican, the so-called Seminole Indians, so-called, all right, okay, and all the natives throughout the Americas, which consist of the northern kingdoms of the nation of Israel, all right. So it says, and broken his everlasting covenant. Why? In scripture, that's Psalms 50. What hast thou to do to declare my statutes? You sitting there calling yourselves Christians, but you twisted the Lord's instructions. What's the result? Right? It says, therefore, a curse consumes the earth. So you ain't got to wonder why the earth is all messed up and out of whack. It's because the devil is running it. And by the devil, we mean the so-called white man. And by the so-called white man, we mean Edomites. Okay? All right? So it says, therefore, a curse consumes the earth. Its people must pay the price for their sin. They are destroyed by fire, and only a few are left alive. Okay? That's straightforward. All right. Here's another good one. This is a really good one. This is Isaiah, the 14th chapter. In the 5th verse, we start here. The point being in verse 8. Right? It says, the Lord Yahweh hath broken the staff of the wicked one, or of the wicked. That's why this society is in a steady decline. It's in a steady decline, and it's only getting worse and worse and worse. And the scepter of the rulers, okay, he who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. Who's been smiting people in wrath with a continual stroke? Well, look at wars within the last few hundred years. Who's been starting them? White people, so-called white people, Edomites. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. So now you're being persecuted, okay? And you will, and it's going to be blatant, all right? The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. So when he goes into getting persecuted and being in straits, and ultimately that his judgment comes upon him, which is that thermonuclear fire, all right? Then the earth is going to be at rest when the Lord gets rid of you. Okay, that's a whole process within itself. All right. And it's quiet, they break forth into singing. That's going to happen after the destruction of the wicked. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee. All right, the fir trees, and that's an analogy for the nations. All right. And the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller has come up against us. A feller is one who cuts down trees. And that's what Esau has been doing through his blessing, wasting, making things desolate. Right? The Hebrew word for sword is kara. All right. And this is the same sword that you're wielding now. This is Revelation 6 and 4. And there went out another horse. The horse just represents the power structure. That was red. The red represents Edom, Esau, Adawam, which means red. Edom, the definition, the Hebrew word is Adawam. The definition for that Hebrew word is red. What? Why? Because it came out red all over like a hairy carpet. All right. It says, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. Why is that a great sword? Okay, because it goes back to the prophecy. It goes back to Genesis 27 and 40. It goes back to Hebrews 11 and 20. Okay. So let's go back. Where we at? Isaiah. All right. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller has come up against us. And Esau, you was that fella. You continue to consistently to be that. You shall know them by their fruits. He's the one that's making the world desolate. He's the one that's building bombs. Oh, you can say China, right? Okay. All right. But they don't matter. All right. Because they're just another heathen nation under, all right, Esau. They're not ruling. They're not the majority of how can I say, they're not the king of the hill, so to speak. They're not at the top of the food chain. Esau, the so-called white man, is. Right? That's why you got to speak English. English is like the dominant language all over the world. It's the so-called white man's language. Right? He's the one that builds the weapons. Okay? And sells the weapons. So, but this is his utter end right here, verse 9, Isaiah 14:9. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. Right? And it's an analogy for him falling. So he's alive right now. He's living it up, so to speak. He's alive right now because he controls the world. All right? He gets to do what he pleases. But it's going to come a time where he's going to be, all right, essentially the analogy, it's going to be like he's in the grave because he's going to be symbolically dead. Okay? Which means when you go into it, it's a falling away. All right? And it says here, it stirreth up the dead for thee, which are the heathen. Okay? Even all the chief ones of the earth. Okay? Why are they dead? All right? It's because they essentially their empires are falling. All right? They've been falling. Okay? All right? So it says the chief ones of the earth. It says it hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All right? And so what? The Lord is raising these nations to come up against Esau. All right? And that's all that's going into. Okay? So from here, I'm gonna close it. All right? And this, there's been another one. Lord willing, it was edifying, with the spirit. All right? Until next time, I'm going to say shalom. Give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shem Yahushai, B'Hashem Rakakwadash. All right. Double honors to the apostles and elder bishop. Shalom to Shalom. All right. To Akim. Shalom.